What's up, everyone? Welcome to Center Field. This is a Western Connecticut State University student program. I'm your host, Tiante Best, along with my co-host,
Stephen Wasserman.
And we're proudly joined by the head coach of Wisconsin football team, Coach Joe Loth. How are you, Coach?
Doing great.
All right. So, Coach, you're coming off a bye week. So, essentially, you had 2 weeks to prepare for one team. How do you and the team feel going into the final matchup?
Well, we feel good. We play Westfield tonight. And bye weeks are always a challenge because you have, an extra week to prepare, but you also don't play the previous week, so you worry about kind of losing your competitive edge a little bit. So try to do a lot of, ones versus ones, offense versus defense, and play a lot of young guys and get them some extra reps too this week.
So a lot of high energy things at practice. Okay.
So talk about the mentality at practice. What's the atmosphere like for all your seniors? It's their last practice week. They're going into their last game. Has it felt a little weird, or has it felt a little different compared to other practices or game weeks during the rest of the season?
Well, I don't know if it feels any different for coaches or juniors or sophomores or freshmen, but I think the seniors look around and say, this is the last time I'll ever practice on Tuesday. This is the last time I'll ever practice on Wednesday. This is the last time I'll ever practice. So I think there's definitely a senior approaches this last week, and really 2 weeks for us, a lot different than anyone else.
Yeah.
It's definitely an emotional week.
Yeah, that's for sure.
That was a good question, Steve. So, Coach, during the final 2 weeks, how did you stimulate your players' minds? Rather than simply requesting focusing and just concentrating, what did you do to keep the energy high?
Well, I think one of the things you always try to do as a coach is just have a goal for the team to achieve. And really our senior class has a pretty unique goal in that they could be the winningest senior class since 2002 at Western Connecticut. So, that's probably our number one goal as far as our senior class, and then, just kind of building off the season continues the momentum we built.
Okay, so we discussed this previously, last week actually. Did the seniors give their senior speeches yet?
Yeah, they gave them yesterday.
Okay, and what were some of, definitely it's emotional, but what were some of the experiences and advice that they shared with their teammates?
Obviously every senior has a different experience, but some of the better talks from yesterday that I'll remember is, Dennis Flanagan, who had a great year for us. And really, he's a senior this year, and it's the first year he started. He's talked about playing scout team, then being a backup and just sticking with it. And if you stick with it, it's always going to work out for you. And we had other guys just talk about, how much you need to work in the offseason. Other guys, just thanking teammates, thanking coaches and stuff. So it's always an emotional time, and it's really a great time for our young guys to hear. Probably the biggest thing they all hear is how quick it goes. I mean, you blink your eye and 4 years of football is over. And, I mean, that's definitely the reoccurring theme with all the guys.
Yeah, senior speech is always tough. I remember being a freshman and listening to the senior speeches. There wasn't a dry eye in the room. The room full of tough guys. Everybody's crying.
Yep.
So like you said, you have your first Friday night game of the season. Does that change the way practice is run during the week because you have one less day to practice?
Yeah, everything gets pushed up. The lucky thing for us is we had an open week. We didn't have a game last week.
Right.
So usually we practice Sunday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And this week, Sunday became our Tuesday, Tuesday became our Wednesday, Wednesday became our Thursday, and Thursday became our Friday. So we were able to actually practice very similar, just everything was pushed up a day.
Okay. So Westfield State, they're 2-7, and on paper they seem to be an inferior opponent. How do you prevent your team from being overconfident for the final game?
Well, I just think you look at their season, and their season is they beat Plymouth State. Plymouth State beat us, beat UMass Dartmouth. They lost to Framingham 30-28 and almost went to overtime, and Framingham just almost won the league last week. So there's been games this year where they've shown the ability to be a really good football team. So we've got to be ready to play tonight.
So, I mean, their record might not show kind of how their season has gone. They're a really competitive team is kind of what you're getting at.
Yeah, week in and week out. I mean, they've had, game after game where they could have won or have won some games.
So again, we've talked about it this season. We know you're from Cleveland. You're a big Cleveland sports fan. The other day, the Cleveland Cavaliers, since they won the NBA championship, they visited the White House. And the overall theme, and President Barack Obama actually brought this up, is that although LeBron James may be the star player, he's only as good. The season only goes as well as his supporting cast and kind of how well they do. Do you try to adapt that same kind of a motto or mentality kind of around your team? You don't necessarily focus on the certain positions or certain players. It's more of like a general team effort.
Yeah, and football is obviously a lot different than basketball, even more extreme, because basketball, one player makes up 20% of the team at all time when he's on the floor. In football, there's 11 guys in the field, and you go offense, defense. So football, way more even than basketball, can't be a single individual driven team, and the parts that you've got to surround it are even more than a basketball team. So I think definitely in football, you can't have one guy be successful. You can't have 5 guys. You've got to have 22 guys, and then you put in the So definitely the surrounding parts are more important than any single individual in football.
Okay, so
even more than just
yeah.
the 22 guys. You keep going with the special teams players as well.
Without a question.
Yeah.
So looking back on the season, if you had to pick one, what was the defining moment of the 2016 season?
Well, I think
or
if you-
2015, 2016. Yeah.
Yeah, I think if you look at our season, I thought early on, and even in our early shows, I thought we had, a bunch of good players. I think there was a point where all of a sudden we became a good team. Like good players turned into a good team, and it's probably midway through the season where we kind of started figuring some things out, and all those new guys in offense really started clicking, and defense, we had a new scheme. They kind of really, the fits were there, and like I said, ultimately, I think when we went from a bunch of good players to a good team happened right about mid-season.
Yeah. So, in reference to your coaches, when you reevaluate this season, how has your relationship developed with your coaches?
Well, I mean, you hope you just have a good relationship with your coaches all the time. Yeah. I think the big thing we did program-wise this year, coaching-wise, is defensively we switched what we did from the year before.
Okay.
And we brought in some guys that are really 4-3 defensive guys, something that I have a pretty good background in too. And I just think we laid the groundwork for hopefully being consistently good on defense with what we're doing from this point forward.
Okay. So, Coach, from week 1 to week 10, what player has grown the most on and off the field?
Week 1 to week 10. Obviously our quarterback Quinn, who statistically and playing wise, you can see him getting better as the year went on. And, as a transfer student athlete that, didn't start and play a lot of games in his last school, his ability just to play football, you've seen his improvement go week in and week out, just getting reps and playing and learning our offense. And he's probably the guy that's improved as much from the beginning to the end.
Okay, so let's stay on the topic of player development. What are the key factors in getting a player to reach their max potential?
I think it really starts the day the season ends, as much as anything else, is being able to go in the weight room and physically develop, strength-wise, explosiveness-wise, and everything. So I think player development in the off season is probably as important to winning football games as anything you do in season.
Okay.
If you had to pick one of the seniors, one of the 17 seniors, I believe it is, which one do you think might have the future coaching on the sidelines after their playing career is over?
Well, there's a couple guys. I think the starting point might be Tucker Bashan, who's our specialist guy who long snaps, short snaps, holds and everything. And he's a guy that once he got hurt this year mid-season, he was basically coaching our kickers. He got a great knowledge in that. His dad's in coaching and stuff like that. So he's a guy definitely that has a future in coaching. I think Brennan Diaz is one of those guys that will be successful in anything he does. He can go into business, he can go into education, he can go into coaching. So those are a couple of the guys that I think that, starting point-wise would make pretty good coaches.
And if I remember from our guests on last week's show with Kevin Maxson and Brennan Diaz, and I think Kevin Maxson said he might be interested in coaching when his playing career is done as well.
Yeah, without a question. He's already coached in the past and stuff like that, and he's a guy that will be a future coach. He's got a couple of years to play for us.
Right.
Yeah. Well, most of our guests who came on said that they wanted to coach football. Once you develop the love of the game, you see the benefits of being a part of a brotherhood. It's something you want to be a part of forever.
I mean, your playing career isn't going to last forever. Like, your body's only going to last so long. But if you still want to be involved, you could still be a coach, and you could still be a scout. You could still be a part of the game without actually being one of the 22 guys on the field.
Yep. So again, Coach, you had 17 seniors. How do you manage to keep your players on the team for 4 years? How do you keep retention?
Well, I think you hopefully provide them every tool that they need to be better, whether it's an off-season lifting program, whether it's an academic program, whether it's leadership stuff, whether it's the ability to become a better football player. I think it's a combination of a lot of different things to keep kids in the program, and ultimately winning football games helps tremendously too. So we continue to work to win football games every week, and anytime you're around success, you want to be involved in success.
Yeah.
So you kind of touched on this earlier, but from all of the seniors you've had here in your time at WestCon, what makes this senior class stand out compared to the rest?
Well, like I said, ultimately, on paper, it could be the winningest senior class we've had.
Right.
Like I said, they've gone to a couple bowl games, won a bowl game. And I just think what I'll take from this class, next year, 5 years from now, is really their ability. When mid-season, we weren't, like I said, we had a bunch of good players that weren't playing well, a bunch of new guys, is their ability just to kind of stick with it, stick with the process, be positive amongst themselves with the team, and then they really get us flipped and start playing good football mid-season. So I thought their ability just to just be great teammates, great kids to coach, and be very positive.
Okay. Yeah. So again, the seniors, you had a lot of good leaders on this team, and I'd like to hope that they instill that mentality in the underclassmen. So which of the underclassmen do you expect for to step up next season and be like vocal leaders on the team?
Well, the exciting thing for us is 2 of our 4 captains are back.
Yeah.
A lot of times your captains are all seniors, and one of our best leaders I've ever had coaching-wise is Kevin Maxson, who was here last week. He's a tremendous leader, a vocal leader. And then on offense, Jordan Sullinger, who's been on here, is our offensive captain that's back, and he's a vocal leader and stuff like that. So usually in the off season, you don't have any captains because they graduated, seniors or captains. This year we've got 2 captains that we're going to go into our off season with, and that's an exciting thing.
Okay, nice.
So not every player is going to get playing time. You have over 100 players on your roster. You have a really deep roster. Who are some of the players that the everyday fan might not know about? Who are some of the players that didn't get as much playing time that we can expect to see more of the field next year?
Well, I mean, there's the guys that you didn't see on the field this year that are the guys that will work great in the off season off season.
Yeah.
So to be honest, they'll control the guys that you didn't see that didn't play. They're in control of their own destiny. We always have a saying, "Make us play you." You know what I mean? If there's a guy that's not playing, if you're not playing, and you want to play more, you as a player has to make us play you as a coach. Do something in the off season. Do something in spring practice. Do something in fall camp. Put yourself in a position to be that player. So I don't want to say anything right now until I see which one of those kids are the ones that are willing to do that.
Okay. Not giving away any secrets, Steve.
Yeah.
So, as a former player, I believe football is all year round. You have the preseason, you have the end season, and then there's the on season.
Yep.
So the preseason being, summer workouts going into camp. End season is game time, and then the on season is December through July.
Yep.
So, what do your players do, or what do you provide your players for the 8-month on season?
Meaning off season, like spring.
Yeah, I don't like to call the off season. I don't like to turn anything off. I want football to be year round.
Well, off season is, like I said, maybe the most important reason you win or lose football games.
Yeah.
And we're excited. To be honest, the football program, we just hired a new athletic director, and one of the positions we've talked about, even in the interviews, is getting a strength and conditioning coach here at Western Connecticut, a full-time or someone that does that role. So hopefully we get something in place where we really can focus on the off season and get our guys in the weight room and just do a tremendous job.
Yeah.
So there isn't really a lot of rest for the weary, even though your season ends tonight. In terms of your game, you said you had the meeting on Tuesday. Let's talk about the recruiting process. When does that start for you and your coaches?
Well, that's 12 months. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The nice thing about having that open week last week is really we truly got a jump start on our recruiting process. The schools we're going to go visit started watching every kid in Connecticut's highlight film and kids in New York that we can recruit now. So that's a 12-month year process, and that never ends.
Okay.
So what are some of the common questions you get from recruits and their parents?
Well, I just think they want to know, the type of education, they want to know, football-wise, just kind of what we do offense, defense. But it all starts with academics and education. And obviously the huge benefit of being at Western Connecticut, as you guys all know, is you get a great education, but it's such a value.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So we really sell that, the benefits of the state school education, but being such a small private-like school size, there's some benefits here at Western Connecticut that a lot of schools don't have.
Yeah.
What's the balance like trying to recruit players from within Connecticut versus outside of the state?
Good question, Steve.
Well, in the past, we focused 90% of our roster, 95 was Connecticut, because that's where we could offer in-state tuition, and that's where the financial aid really was, met, the ability for a kid to afford school. We're as excited as anything that we're now able to recruit the 6 counties, west of Western Connecticut now in New York, and offer them in-state tuition. So in some ways, we haven't doubled our recruiting area, but we've added probably 40% onto our recruiting area. So we're really excited about that.
Okay. Awesome.
All right, so Coach Loth, thanks for joining us these past 11 weeks.
Yep, it's been
I
good.
speak for everyone here at Centerfield. We truly appreciate it. I hope you finish the season strong. Good luck tonight and get the victory.
Yep.
All right. Don't touch that remote. You don't want to miss what's coming up next. Stay here with us at Centerfield. Hey, what's up? Welcome back to Center Field. I'm your host, Tiante Best, along with my co-hosts, Chris Walker and Stephen Wasserman. As you all know, we followed the 2016 WestCon football season very closely. So we decided to make a all-Center Field team based off a creative list of honorable benefits. So Chris, you're up first. What was your favorite play of the season?
Oh, that's an easy one.
Okay.
That's an easy one. Dominique Carr's interception on homecoming in the second quarter of the game. WestCon was down 13-7. They were still trying to find their rhythm. they didn't have much going for them on offense, and Dominique Carr batted the ball away from the receiver, and it was still in the air. He dove backwards behind him to catch it, and he was right in front of his bench. They went crazy. The fans went crazy. We went crazy in the booth calling the game.
Sounds like one of those plays that go. Yeah,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. I've been waiting for it to go off, and it changed the whole game, I think, and that's why that was my favorite play of the year.
So
Okay.
my
And Steve?
favorite player of the year actually came in the opening week. You know, it was actually against Hartwick. 53 seconds left in the game. WestCon down 31-28. Quinn, and they were back in their own territory. Quinn Fleeting dumps it short to Jawad Chisholm. He gets a block, and he runs all the way down the sideline for a touchdown, 81 yards. And they won by that score of 35-31. So I'm going early in the season, but Quinn to Jawad.
that was a good play, and they start off 1-0 because of that
Yeah.
play. So, and personally, my favorite play was the homecoming game when WestCon was tied 0-0, 7 minutes in the first quarter. Maxon lined up in a weak side linebacker, gets that pick six, changes the trajectory of the game.
Yep.
Yeah.
WestCon ends up smoking the team, getting W on homecoming. That was my favorite play.
So defense, offense.
There we go.
There you go.
So breakout athlete of the season. Mine personally was our two-time guest on this show, Jawad Chisholm. I think he had a great season as a receiver. Steve, who was your breakout athlete?
I'm going to go Kyle McKinnon because I think, Chris, we were talking a little bit off air. He only
Yeah.
played 6 games, and he has 250-yard rushing game. If he gets less than 100, it's like a down game for him. He has so high expectations, and the best part is, best is yet to come. He's only a sophomore. So I go Kyle
Almost had
McKinnon.
700 yards this year in
It's
just
ridiculous.
6 games. Yeah.
And he played half the season.
He's a beast, too. He's getting, 25 to 30 carries a game. He can carry a load. Yeah.
And as Coach Loth said, he's their power back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, and your breakout
You're going to
athlete?
hear me say his name a lot,
Okay.
Deontay.
I think I know his name.
Quinn Fleeting.
Okay.
Quinn Fleeting.
QB1.
Yeah, QB1. Start of the season, you heard me asking Coach tough questions about him and
Yep.
things like that. But I'll tell you what, he's been the breakout offensive player for this team.
Yeah.
He finished the season with 2,241 yards.
Wow.
And this is the biggest thing for me. Finished with 17 touchdowns and 14 interceptions. Yeah, you could say 14 is a lot, but how many of those were over the final 4 games of the season? Well, just 2 of them. So he really picked up his play as the season went on, and he broke through for sure. As we got late in the season, that's
Yeah.
why he's up there.
I can see that,
Definitely
absolutely.
respect that choice.
Yeah.
Steve, you're on the hot seat now. Who was the best freshman of the year?
I'm in the hot seat now. Okay,
Yeah.
no. Coach has actually mentioned this name a lot, and something I would love to have him on the guest if possible. But Lucas D'Souza,
Oh.
I can't believe he's only a freshman. The way he played, the second half of the season was awesome for him. He was a reliable threat, deep, short for Quinn Fleeting, and something to watch out for next season. Look out for that wide receiving core. We know Bobby Durham's graduating. You still got Jawad Chisholm, who's going to be a senior. Austin Calamita will be a junior. Lucas D'Souza will be a sophomore. So that wide receiving core will be dangerous, especially if Lucas D'Souza keeps up his great work as he did the second half of the season.
I'm going to have to agree with you with Lucas D'Souza. Lucas, he stepped up to the plate when he was actually not even the number one. It was when, a player went down or Will Andrew didn't end up playing. You had Lucas D'Souza, who stepped up. And then when he did get on the field, he delivered.
Yeah.
Especially for an underclassman to be in that type of situation. It's a high pressure situation.
Yeah.
He got into the game and he did everything he needed to do.
That's right.
Absolutely.
And
Now I'm going to go a different route. One of the major freshmen on this team that was called upon after the departure of Mike Kaloran, who was the kicker for the past few seasons, is their new kicker, Jordan D'Onofrio. And his stats, he was 3 for 6 on field goals, but I'll tell you what, throughout the season he also improved, as I mentioned, with Quinn Fleeting. And one of his field goals was a game winner. And Steve, you were at that game.
Yeah, that was Mass Maritime.
Right.
Yeah.
That was an away game, and it was a low-scoring game, and they needed that kick to win the game. And he was 25 of 29 extra points. He was perfect in the last 2 games of the year.
He was awesome.
And he was towards the end of the season. He got to the point where you could trust him to kick that field goal. You would trust him for that extra
That
point
was
every
something
time.
we talked about.
He was
Talk to
also
Coach about.
punting pretty well when he was
And
trusted on
not
that.
to
Yeah.
mention his punting, absolutely.
And he was named 2 or 3 time
Yeah, he was
Mascot
twice,
Player
yeah.
of the Week for special teams, right?
Yeah, and
So you know what that's leading to.
Yeah.
Mike Nickel was the punter when the season started, but they developed a trust in D'Onofrio, and he became the punter as well. So he was a huge part of this team.
So staying with you, Chris, who was the best senior?
Senior, Bobby Durham.
Okay.
And yeah, I know.
We're gonna agree. But Captain Bobby Durham, that's who I chose
You know
as well. When he sat here exactly where you're sitting, I
Yep.
told him, "You're Slash, huh?" I was like, "Who do you think you are, Mr. Cornerback, wide receiver, kick returner?"
Tell you what, senior captain.
Yep.
You know, I think the biggest thing for me is that he switched mid-season from defense to offense.
Yeah.
And he only had 4 catches on offense. But listen to this. He had 104 yards and 2 touchdowns on just 4 catches.
See, the thing,
remarkable.
Pretty efficient.
The plays that don't make the stat sheet sometimes are the most relevant plays because what I saw Bobby doing out there was really blocking downfield and really getting the job done.
He does a lot of the kind of the dirty stuff, the stuff that will not make the stat sheet, and he's fine doing that, and that's what makes him a good leader, a good senior.
Yep.
I agree with that, but my player is someone that Coach has mentioned a lot. How many times? Let me ask you guys. When we ask Coach who is the player of the game, who is the best player of the game, how many times did he say Dennis Flanagan?
15.
We had to love the shows. But that's still the right answer. No, but he said Dennis Flanagan was awesome. And we talked to him a little bit ago, is that this is his first year starting. You would not know that if you just tuned in this season to either our show or the games. He was awesome. He was putting a lot of pressure on the quarterback as one of the big D tackles. And as a senior, that's the way you go out. So I'm going Dennis Flanagan.
Okay. And this is actually my favorite topic right here. Who do you guys think was, well, we'll start with you. Who was the hardest hitter?
Kevin Maxon for me.
Captain Max.
I'm just going to tell you how many tackles he had. He had 64 total tackles.
That's
Yep.
it. Seems like a heck of a lot more.
Over the season. I mean, this guy, every play, you know, especially doing play-by-play for the radio call of the games, sometimes I don't see the hard-hitting plays, and when a hit is made, I just watch the ball, where the ball is. But he was one of those players where even when I'm calling the play, I still notice him because every time he hits somebody, it's a hard hit.
Yeah.
You know, he crushes everybody. That's why he's up there. If I can notice him, then he's a hard hitter.
Steve?
I would love to go the whole D line if I could, but I'm still going to stick with Dennis Flanagan. I think he was probably the hardest hitter. He took like the brute of the contact because he's right there on the D line battling those O linemen. But I still think he made a lot of good plays in the backfield. Again, it was a team defensive effort. We highlighted that all season. And I think Dennis Flanagan was probably the X factor, the key point of that defensive line and that defensive front.
Whoa. Let me tell you who the hardest hitter was before you say somebody else is the X factor. So a lot of the times during the game, if I'm not filming or I'm walking through the crowd and trying to get shots, I'm listening. So I hear the hard hits. Yeah. Kareem Patterson was out there hitting people, and I can hear the pops. Or if I'm standing on the sideline and I hear the hard hit, I look and I see the guy on the ground here. I hear that. That guy just got the wind knocked out of him. I'm going to go with Kareem Patterson. So moving along, Steve, who was your most improved defensive player?
Well, it's someone I actually know very well. Someone I actually roomed with my first semester here. All around pretty good guy. And that's Stephon Walker. Late in the season, the last 2 or 3 games, Brian Ballandia was the starting defensive end to start the season. And then Steph Walker came into his own, got that starting job, and he's been making the most of it. Yeah. I was talking with Coach Kevin Jones, his first season as D-line coach, and he said, and Steph Walker's a senior, so he might be graduating. Coach kind of joked and said, if he keeps playing the way he's playing, he could live at my house and stay here. So he's been playing his tail off. He's been playing really hard and making the most of his opportunities.
Good pick. And who's yours?
Yeah.
Michael Kaiser.
Okay.
Now, in the beginning, I know it may sound like, oh, okay, really? Most improved? Well,
yeah.
Again, it comes down to me calling plays. If I notice somebody, I didn't notice him much in the beginning of the season. But as the season went on, you're always looking for number 99. Yep. You're always looking for him because he's there when he needs to be there. He's making tackles. He had 2.5 sacks on the season. He's always right near the quarterback. If the quarterback gets knocked down after a throw or gets sacked or gets rushed, it's always number 99 right there, either on top of the quarterback or right in the area.
Okay. So if you guys can think back to the Hartwick game when there was one cornerback out there, it seemed like he was, having a rough game. And then things changed right after he got like that deflection on that last play of the game. So I'm going with Ryan Jarzovic.
That was a big play.
Yeah, that was a big play that helped them win that game. And then you think about the full duration of the season. Just this past game, there was no completions on his side. They targeted him 11 times, and there was 0 completions. So I'm going to go with Ryan Jarzovic.
And I think you make the great point. Like you talked about Kaiser, I talked about Walker. Jarzovic is the one that's played the whole season, and he's improved steadily each and every game from game 1 to game 10.
What you said about game 1. He really did struggle, and then made that play at the end of the game.
And it changed the season.
You could tell by his body language after that play. He was like, "All right, it's going to be go right."
And it worked mentally for him too.
Moving on to the most improved offensive player, we all agree with this. We spoke about it before. It's the offensive line.
Yes,
Just their improvement from game 1 through game 9. We've all seen, the improvements from both, like from left tackle to right tackle, and everybody in between. So let's talk a little bit about this offensive line.
You see, well, first and foremost with Quinn Fleeting being protected better. You know, he's not getting knocked down. He's not getting sacked as much, and that speaks to just how good this line has gotten in. And we were saying, earlier in the season, that if Westcon had their defense from this season and their offense from the past few seasons, they would be in first place.
Easily.
And towards the end of the season, that's how it was. They had that great defense and that great offensive line, and that's why they're winning games right now.
All right,
It's because of that offense.
Quickly, Steve, who do you think is going to go all conference this season? All Mazak.
It's a little tough because obviously that comes at the end of the season, but I think we got to say Quinn Fleeting. I mean, he's the #1 passer. He has the most yards. He's been top 5 or at least top 2 all season in yards, completions, all the major categories for a quarterback. He's been our most improved player. I think we agreed on that, or Chris, you said it. Is that?
Yeah, I said he was my best offensive.
Go right into it.
Yeah, it has to be.
So who was your most valuable player on offense this season?
It was Quinn. It had to be
Tell us
Quinn
about him.
because, I talked about his yards. He had a 61.1% completion percentage, which, he got so much better as the season went on. Especially the last 2 games, just watching him right after we had him on the show.
Yeah. Oh, where's good luck charm?
I know. Right after we had him on the show, he went off the 2 games. He had just the 1 pick, homecoming, and no interceptions.
And that wasn't even his fault.
Exactly. Right. He was. Especially at the end of the season, he was.
You know what it
MVP
was?
of the
Quinn
team.
came onto the show and he mentioned that, his father was his favorite player,
That's
and
right.
it changed his mentality to thinking like, all right, I idolized my father growing up playing football. So what is it that he would do in order to improve his game?
Yep.
I think Quinn adapted that mentality and went out and finished the game strong, finished the season strong.
Yeah.
So I hope. With this last game, he'll
got one more
deliver
chance,
too.
yeah.
And go ahead, Steve.
No, I was going to say, and you could probably throw offensive most valuable player, offensive player of the year, Jawad Chisholm, and I think you were kind of in that category too. Is that Jawad's been he's been one of the leaders. He might be a future captain if we're not careful, So he's had a couple games where he's had over 100 yards, 6, 7 completions. I think he was awesome this year.
So real quick, just the name. Who is the most valuable player on defense?
Brendan Diaz.
I'm gonna go Captain Maxson.
Kareem Patterson.
All right.
All different. There you go.
So, well, fellas, that's it for us this season on Center Field.
Goes by fast.
I'd really like to say thank you to our hardworking team who works behind the scenes. I'd like to say thank you to J.P. Sheehan, Kyle Kloiber, Sean Light, Jonathan Mumby, Max Alexander, Carl Anderson. You guys are the real MVPs. I'd also like to say, to my co-host, Stephen Wasserman, Chris Walker.
Yo, I don't even know you.
Yeah, Katie Kelly on air. It's been an honor, sharing this stage with you. I really appreciate it.
Same to you.
And to everybody who's been watching us all season, thank you for tuning in. We're truly grateful. You can also watch us on YouTube. Plug it in, Steve.
If you go under channels on YouTube, just type in Center Field, 2 words. You can see some of our episodes. This one will certainly be on there, as well as the team's website.
So yes, find us on YouTube. All right, this has been a dream come true for me. I almost feel like this is like the end of like an all-star team.
It's an era.
But but in actuality, it's actually just the beginning for all of us, and everything's going to get better from here out.
Definitely.
Right.
He's Chris Walker. He's Stephen Wasserman. I'm Tiante Best. Until next time, everyone, peace and love from Center Field.